Hello, everyone. We are going live. I'm just going to check to make sure we're live. Uh, okay. Got a few people watching. Thank you. The seasons are changing here in North Carolina. So I wanted to go through just a little bit of ideas, designs, theory, that sort of thing. Again, your mileage may vary on any of this stuff, but one of the things that has been interesting as we kind of close out the year and move into 2024 is where is software going, where is O&P going, where is design going, are we going all in 3D printing, what is the deal with FDM, multi-jet fusion, SLS, and somebody says looks live to me. What's up? um so whoever you are, thank you for being out there. That gave me a little bit of a chuckle. So um I think one thing that I'd like to talk about is just how hard software is. um we had our first kind of casualty, and it was something, seeing Mercurus close their doors the end of this year. One of the things that I really liked about what they were doing is just the simple nature and allowing clinicians to be clinicians. But the stuff is expensive to develop, and the technology is expensive to develop. And a lot of times you're mixing and matching and using different people's pieces to make a solution. And sometimes that can get a little bit complicated, and that's tough. And I think that's kind of what happened with Mercurus is just you see how hard the software side of things is. And is software, the future? We've Yours and I know you haven't gotten a podcast in the last 2 weeks, but we have continued to record. And it's just been interesting to hear people's takes on the software side of things, as well as the productization of some things. So companies like Invent Medical have done a really nice job being hyper focused on a few items that end up being very beautiful. So they have their AFO, the sockets, and that sort of thing, and they are have done a nice job creating a portfolio of products. And I believe there is a lot to that. Um, and then you have the software that's outside of O&P that people are using. People are still using Mesh Mixer and Fusion 360 and ZBrush. And there's also some other ones that I just learned about. There's like an iCAD that is mostly in footwear. It looks very interesting, but it's still expensive. And then you have a suite like Freeform that literally can do anything that you need it to do all within one software. And that is, my preference, and that's where I have landed. However, I've talked with multiple software companies that are in the O&P space as automation gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and say, hey, are you able to get me a surface with modified surface with trim lines? And that's exactly what I think is the next thing. It's not how do you design the widget and Gidget, is how do you get the clinician in and out of the software and then allow them to choose from a menu of items of what they want. And I think those who get that will do very well, because the reality is everybody has a little bit of a different path. Every patient is a little bit different, and it makes it more and more difficult. So I'm going to go into. We've got curious to hear about pellet printing, CPX, filament innovations, and all that jazz, specifically for AFOs. I think pellet printing is really, really neat. If you've been following what Filament Innovations is doing, I mean, they have really defined what high flow, specifically for the O&P industry, looks like. I remember, working with Mike. Man, it's back 2014, 2015 when his stuff was kits. He literally flat packed stuff to us, and then we had to, put it together. And we were talking high flow then. We used a hot end called the Prometheus hot end. And uh, what you can do is, depending on how many nuts that go on the end, the hot end, is how long your melt zone would be. And so what I did, which was not very smart, was I put 3 of those together and daisy chained the heaters together. So I had a hot end that was very, very long. And man, I was able to push out a lot of filament. But that came to a screeching halt because I was going to check on a print, and I was like, what is that? What does that smell? It smells like an electrical fire or something. And one of the heater cores had fallen out while printing, and literally there was a blue flame coming from the hot end of my printer. Shut it down, everything's okay, didn't burn the house down or anything. But man, it does give you an idea of even though these things are fairly safe now, it is uh I mean, you're essentially shorting electricity to get your heat. So that was the beginning of high flow, at least for O&P stuff. And then the stuff got better and better. You had the volcano nozzles come out, and then you've got now the Typhoon and the pellet stuff. I think pellets are great. I think the neat thing is they're easier to compound. You're going to get stuff cheaper. You're going to drive the cost down. I think one of the difficulties that we're going to have in the adoption of FDM style printing is the lines of it. I think they're great. I think it's for a temporary socket or a beach leg or what have you. I think you're really going to struggle convincing people that this is the way the prostheses are going to look. We've had these carbon fiber looks. We've had the looks with t-shirts and laminations and that sort of thing. And that's what people are used to. And so if you say, hey, your option is kind of this marbly gray looking or black matte look, and that's it, I think people are going to be left a little bit wanting. So, but it makes it very cost effective to get prosthesis, long-term wear prosthesis on it. And they've done some amazing testing. I mean, Bionic has done some testing um, that they have released that shows that the CPX is a legitimate material to use for a temporary style socket, not only for the vertical load testing, but also for some cyclical testing. So I think that's pretty interesting. Now, AFOs pretty interesting as well. I think the first time that I saw an AFO actually built in vase mode was actually by Bionic as well, and that was very interesting. You literally put the AFO so it's kind of at an angle like this on your build plate, and then you can run vase mode all the way up. The only problem is it's good for, say, like a posterior leaf spring or what have you, but when you need to get some corrugation or what have you, you have to really think about how you're going to design that and create some corrugation that way. But I think it's totally possible. There's a lot of people doing like TPU with FDM, and I think it looks great. I think if that's what you have access to, that is fantastic. I also, though, you're talking about hours and hours for printing, and you're still dealing with the lines, some basic colors, that sort of thing. And that's really where Multijet Fusion, SLS, and such really shine. I mean, you get a very clean, professional looking product. And if you do the design, you can find great pricing on not only TPU, but PA 11 or 12, whichever way you want to go. And so I think that is really the future. We're going to see a lot of the pricing is going to come down, even though some of those costs have gone up. As of tomorrow, HP has raised their prices 10 to 12%, pretty much across the board. I think not only for service, but also for material costs. So you're going to see your prices go up as well as that gets passed along to the buyer. But nonetheless, there is capacity in the United States right now across everyone that has a Multijet Fusion or an SLS machine, and that's really where the deals are to be had. You know, um, so I would, if the bottom line is design is the key. That is 100% where you would save the most money. So a lot of people say, Brent, what would you do today differently than you've done already? And my answer would be double down on design and workflow stuff. My other answer would be hyper focused on a specific problem you want to solve. So one of the things that I did early on was I wanted to solve all problems with 3D printing, and I guess to some extent I still do that. But my focus has really been, okay, I've dialed in the transtibial sockets, multiple locking mechanisms, suction, that sort of thing. So that got done. Same thing with transfemorals, workflow, distal end, making sure things don't break, that sort of thing, the testing on all that. And now it has become, okay, so how do you optimize some of that? Perfect. And now we're like, hey, how do we actually make this stuff more flexible yet supportive? And that's where I'm trying to live and breathe right now is, do you really need a frame? And um, that is what um, is very interesting. So I've started taking it and cutting down the um, the frames as much as I can, and then we do it in TPU flexible, and then just a very small distal end that is either a PA 11 or 12, and then we go from there. And I think that is interesting. So, got a question here. What's the lowdown on Justpoto? Justpoto is a pretty nifty software. The reason why I like it, so there's a couple different things about Justpoto that I think make it very, very unique. One is the idea of letting the clinician be the clinician and automating tasks that are repetitive. So one thing that you can do in Justpoto is it only takes a few clicks to get an alignment. And I love that. Even in free form, it takes a little bit of time to get your alignment right, but with Justpoto, you're able to bring that right in. And then from there, as long as you've templated some of your, say, AFOs, SMOs, or what have you, you're just a few clicks away from something that's being printable. And not only that, but they have the lattice structures and some other things that you can put in, patterns that you can put in that make it pretty interesting software. So I think they're definitely on the right track with on the software side of things. I love the automation and I love the workflow that goes along with it. So if anybody's looking at it, I would say give it a good try and see about getting the. I think they are doing a trial period too, so that would be good. And I think most softwares are doing trial periods too. One of the other interesting things is the consolidation of some of the software stuff under one roof, not necessarily getting together, but you've got a company like Equal that has brought TechMed, Rodin, and Vorum all under one roof. And then now with the spinal tech solutions coming in too, which were big time Vorum users, it just makes a lot of sense. And they're going to be driving a lot of innovation internally. And the owning that vertical is very, very interesting. And also owning that vertical and having people buy from you is also very interesting. So, for instance, like if you're in the U.S. and you are a heavy TechMed or Rodin user, I'm sure there are ways to see how much you're doing in that. And so now it's pure speculation, but I'm sure the other ones are like that too, where hey, I can't believe they're doing 27 body jackets a month or what have you. Let's see what they're up to. Or you use it for how can we help you get more efficient to where you go from 27 to 30 a month. Or hey, where is some of your pain? We'd love to help have our development team work with you. And I really think that that's actually where the software side of things actually will go, is the people that are going to win in software are the ones that are super, super focused. And they will say, hey, we're looking for 5 or 6 people and we want to spend time with you. We're going to use our resources. And as long as you're good with it, we're going to sit right next to you. We're going to watch what you're doing and see if we can help you out. Those people are going to be the ones that win. It's not the people that are going to be going to the trade shows and doing the dog and pony show. And while there's plenty of time to do that, that money that would be spent doing that, I think, is much more better spent. Wow, that didn't make much sense. Much better spent um, in doing the spending time with customers. 100%. You got to do that. So let's see if there's any other questions here. I think there's some other. Here we go. Hey, Aaron. Volumetric, Valley Electric Scanning. What's good, fam? Hey, oh, Drew, that's you. It says LinkedIn user, so I didn't know that was you. How are things going? Anything else? Ace around the court, limb filled with expandable. Aaron, you've got some really great points. And one of the things that I love about the O&P is there's so many ways to do things. But, one of the things that's super interesting is how do you capture the shape? And there are many, many ways to do that. But one of the main thing that to capture shape, if you scan specifically for prosthetics, when you are weight bearing prosthetics, when you scan and direct scan, you get a great scan of the surface, but you don't have a sense of what that surface does under tension or weight bearing. And you can guess, and you can put in some pre-tibial, you can do a whole global reduction, pre-tibial pads, load the medial flare, come over the condyles, but it's still a guess of what is possible. For transfemorals, my preference or transtibials, my preference is to take a high tension cast following the Coyote Stable Flex method. And that way you get your volume and your bony prominences literally just kind of pop out because of that high tension cast. And when I talk about a high tension cast, we're talking about taking casting tape and wrapping as tight as you can until the casting tape almost rips and you back off a little bit. And people will ask, well, don't you get roping? You don't get roping. It's the craziest thing. And you will be at your numbers or under your numbers, and you will be in the ballpark every single time if only you clean it up. Now, um, what I love about what Coyote says, it is total contact, unequal pressure. So there are areas that you can load and there are areas that you have to unload, but you can load almost every area, but it's how much area can you load, or how much can you load that specific area. And so what I try to do is, especially with the lattice structures, is try to dynamically load those areas for the patients. And we've just been having really good success with that. And I really like doing that sort of thing. So there are people that do in the developing world. There's a method called sand casting. So it's literally you put your uh, leg in a bag and the sand kind of moves away, and then you pull vacuum, and then you can pull the leg out, and you're left with just the sand. So you didn't ever took a mold or anything like that. And that is a really neat system. The other thing that's really neat is what Cypress Adaptive has done with their, oh man, it's escaping me now, but it's it's a bladder that literally pumps up with water, and so your the bony anatomy self-expresses underneath when you're pushing in that water, subatmospheric or more pressure, and it's really really neat. um so there we go. Oh, hey Patrick. So could you please once again comment on your experience with the Einstar scanner? Ha! Symphony Aqua. Thank you, Drew. I'm guessing that was Drew. Drew, I don't know why it's saying LinkedIn user. Um, but anyway. Uh, yeah, so on the Einstar scanner, it's a sub $1,000 scanner. You can find it on Black Friday and on sale and probably some sort of coupons or whatever. Very good value. And the software is good as well. You get a really nice watertight model. It's actually what our office uses to scan all our pediatric casts to be sent to the different locations where they get sent. And we've had very good success with that. Our clinicians said that things have been coming and fitting back. One thing that I have noticed, though, is if you do any direct scan sort of thing, so like for covers or what have you, any little bit of movement really messes some things up. And so I'm hoping to put that together. So I had a case where I was doing a cover and the scan looked amazing, looked great, but it didn't turn out as expected. I was a little bit tight in one area that went over some dimension stuff, and it was okay, but it didn't fit great. So I then whipped out the ArtTech Eva, and you get just so much a better scan. So you're still in the area of you get what you pay for when you're talking about scanners. It's it's getting less and less and less. However, one interesting thing about scanners, and most scanners, so say like the Peel scanner or the Einstar or even some of the Scantech or some of the other ones, their software is free that comes with that. ArtTech Studio, which I thought was one of the reasons not to go with ArtTech, really is they charge for their software. But just like any other software, when you get upgrades, it is phenomenal. And the neat thing about the Art Tech is they're actually paying for their development, right? It's not an afterthought to the hardware. And so I actually think Art Tech's in a much better place than really a lot of the other scanning companies, because they have a funding source for the development of their software. I think it's brilliant. And my Art Tech Eva now with Art Tech Studio 18 Professional, I'm getting amazing results with that, and I'm able to scan um, very thin profile things. In fact, I wasn't going to do this, but let's actually open a couple projects up here. So if you guys hang in there with me a little bit, I'm going to open up Art Tech Studio just to show you some of this stuff. Who do I want to update? No, not right now. I'm on LinkedIn Live. I can't do that right now. Any other questions at this time while Art Tech is opening up? So we've got, man, the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. We've got some powerhouse interviews coming up. Yours and I think we've recorded 8 so far for season 7. And it's going to be really neat. We've had some PTs, some people that have been in for additive for a long time, some clinicians also been around for a while. I'm really, really excited for this next season. It's going to be the best yet. But there are 72 episodes, if you haven't checked it out, at the Prosthetics and Orthotics podcast. And a lot of people ask, hey, how did you meet Joris? And we met on a podcast that he was doing. He was interviewing me about the stuff that I do in Guatemala. And from there, we kept in contact. And then I was like, hey, man, you want to do a prosthetic show? And he goes, will anybody listen? And I was like, I don't know. We'll find out. And oh, hey, look at that. LinkedIn user. Thanks, Drew. I'm not able to bring that up right now. I've heard that the new RevoPoint is legit though. So I'm gonna shoot over my screen here. I'm gonna make myself a little bit smaller, and we'll grab this screen here. Okay. Let me see where my let's see where the file, edit, view, show all frames, viewpoint. Anyway, so this is a scan that I did of an Elevate orthosis, and you can see that there's no anterior section here. And so but you can see how thin the features are that came on this. You can even read this. Trim carefully. I mean, it looks real. And what made all this possible is this stuff right here, the A-Sub spray. You spray that, and you get this kind of non-reflective surface there. But so I'm really excited about this. Let me see if maybe it's under here. Tools. There we go. I also did the top section too. There we go. And I aligned them all up. So take a look at this. So I've got the top section here. This is their off-the-shelf cuff. So what I'm going to do with this, I've actually got, this is the craziest thing. I never say never. so we had a situation where a patient came in, presented with spina bifida, walking. No, not in a walker, not in a chair, nothing, walking. And I've been seeing her forever. And her doctor wrote a prescription for a floor reaction AFO, like this one, and an SMO. And I know if you're a prosthetist or an orthotist, you're probably cringing right now because that is totally not the book answer. And on my tongue, I literally was about to say, that's not really that great of an idea. We shouldn't do that. But we had a couple sample AFOs around, and she had already had an SMO from her current brace. And I said, hey, we've got these sample braces. We're going to see if it's a good idea or not. And I was fully expecting it to just fail miserably. And boy, was I wrong. And I love being wrong on some of this stuff. But I was definitely wrong. So we put her in her SMO, and then we also put her in this floor reaction style AFO. And she did amazing. She loved it. And she said she felt more stable than her current floor reaction style AFO that is custom, made by Cascade DAFO. I guess it's the FR or one of those, the floor reaction, anterior floor reaction AFOs. And so I said, okay, well, let's do it. So and that's the reason why I've scanned this one. So I've scanned this. I'm going to create the SMO. I'm going to also create an anterior panel specifically for her based off the cast that she has. And then we're going to put it all together. And that's one of the cool things about having, a good scanner, is that we're going to be able to do all that and match up the SMO to the foot plate so it goes in the shoe, and do the same for the proximal shell. So I'm really excited about doing that. So that is the Artec EVA with the Artec Studio 18 Professional. If you have any questions or what have you about that, Bo from Digitized Designs, and I'll put that in the comment here, Bo. Digitize Designs sells amazing Artec scanners. And Bo from Digitized Designs. Yeah, so he does Artec, and it really is the best scanner out there for O&P. And the other thing that I love is I'm able to scan the inside of casts. Yeah, I think it's great. Let's see, any other questions out there? So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to make myself bigger again. Let me just see if there's anything in the NTOP world. I'll save that I can share. That's kind of fun. Open. So I'm going to open up a wrist hand orthosis. So I've been doing a lot of these fracture braces. And more recently, we've actually had a couple doctors that we've had to do one on. So I'm going to just show you this here. Make myself a little bit smaller. So this is NTOP here. And the beauty of all these is that this whole thing is scripted. So literally this whole brace is based off of two files. These two files right here. So the first one is, and this is where I say, if you are a software company and you can give me things like this, then I can do things like this over here with nTopology. So I bring the trim lines in, And then I bring the solid in. And this is something that I learned, and I really debated on whether I was going to share this or not with you this evening, but I think it's important enough to share. One of the things that I do that is very, very interesting is I create the kind of the everything with the trim lines here. So this is an offset or an emboss there. And then I use this as a cut body. So Arthur, if you're out there using ZBrush, here's one of the little tricks if you want to ZBrushize it. But this is really cool because you get a nice clean line along the edges. So then you can take your trim lines and thicken them and then cut them away. And then you're left with something like this. And so all this is literally built in NTOP completely off those two files, and it all happens really, really quick. So all I have to do, if somebody sends me something, I literally swap in the trim line and the solid and let NTOP do its thing, and it kicks the file out at the end. So that is really beneficial there. So that hopefully gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the inner workings. Let me just see if there's something else out here that is interesting. Oh, this is interesting here. I knew you were out there, Arthur. Yeah, I think you owe me a phone call, Arthur. We need to catch up on your sailboat stuff. All right. So I'm opening up another NTOP file just to show you some of the thought process of what's going on. You know, I've been using a Multijet Fusion TPU for a long time. So this is it'll be going on 4 years, going on 5 years. And so I was able to beta some of this stuff in the right before COVID, so end of 2019. So, all right. So I'm going to show this file here. You know, if you can follow all this, then good for you. But here's a script. It requires a few inputs, but you get these outputs like this. So this is, I think this is where things are going. I think this is where there's a lot of benefit. So you have some rigidity, but you also have some flexibility. And so let me just show you what that, let me see. So there's the little socket, and it's got the valve all built in. Oh, you haven't seen these before. Well, let's just say no more metal. And this right here. So, you know, once you have the workflow down, you're literally talking a few minutes and you let the NTOP do the rest. It really is pretty crazy. So, but, you know, we've come up with, hey, the vertical loading here, what does that need to look like? So what is this thickness? What does the sponginess look like? How do we make sure that we're loading the frame vertically and not collapsing the TPU. Early on, we had some of that TPU collapsing over a period of time, especially when somebody was weight bearing. So, yeah. So that is that. So showed a lot of things. Um, Hopefully lifted the hood a little bit on it. A lot of people ask how to get started, and the reality is you need to start investing in yourself. Um, on the design side of things, and just know where you want your limitations to be. If you want to be unlimited, you're going to have to put in the time and effort to do that. Um, but if you want to be creative and let other people design, there's people that can do that as well. Right now, um, uh, at Advanced 3D, we do a lot of crazy designs, a lot of one-off stuff. I show a lot of things, but I'm not able to show a lot of things. There's actually 3 products right now that we're working on that are just off the charts amazing. They are groundbreaking products, and I can't wait for them to go public. But man, it is amazing. So we not only do some of these one-off things, but we also look at how do you create a workflow that is repeatable, and so we can also help with that. And it's not only orthotics and prosthetics. Some of the most fun projects are the orthotic and prosthetic side of things, but we do a lot of stuff in consumer goods, some automotive, even some experimental aircraft, that sort of thing. A lot of reverse engineering because we already have great scanners. So those are great things as well. So, this, man, we still got people going and listening. So if you have any other questions, drop them in the chat. But if not, this has gone longer than what I expected, but this has been fun. I think what I'll leave you with is yes, you need to invest in yourself and learn to design. Time is the most valuable asset, and it's also the asset that will give back the most in when you're on this journey. So, a lot of people ask, well, how much does it cost? And the stuff that we do doesn't exist anywhere else. Can other people kind of do it? Yes. Um, I would say we're not the least expensive. I would say we're very fair, and we also learn together. But what means more to us and more to myself than anything is actually not the money part. It's actually the building relationships and um, the knowledge that we gain together on this sort of thing. So, for instance, today I worked on a brace. It was a dynamic strut style AFO, and they asked, well, how much is it? Well, do you know want to know how much it actually would cost if I was to charge you an hourly rate as we're trying to figure this along? Or is this something that you're going to work with us on a long-term type of thing? And then we're able to kind of figure that price out together. I don't know that we will ever have a quoting tool on our website. I think a quoting tool is a race to the bottom. I also had just had another situation where somebody submitted some files, and I was going to give them some feedback on it. So their files were just very chunky. And so I called them up and I said, hey, listen, here's where your price is right now. But I think we can probably do that in half if you just do some simple things that are specific for multi-jet fusion. And that's exactly what he did. But you can't really put a price on that. Yes, we're helping you out, but what I want people to do is be successful in what they're doing. So, there are going to be people that sell sockets for X dollars, a BK for X dollars, a Transfem for X dollars. And while we might get there one day, I mean, what we are doing is trying to build the relationships in the next generation of sockets for amazing outcomes. And if we can get there together, um, that's what we want to do. Let's see if there's any other questions here. Everybody's pretty quiet. So, well, this has been good, guys. Thank you for the questions. I hope it's been helpful for you as well. Just thinking about these design considerations, and I would say to anybody, and hopefully there's some software people listening, is the real ticket is allowing the clinician to do their modifications, whatever they may be, distal tib buildup, interosseous space. Don't spend time developing on how to make the sockets. That is kind of the easy part. Spend the time on how are we going to get the data out of the clinician's head, so it's good data, and then get the product that they're thinking of. One of the main reasons why I started doing my own design is that there wasn't anybody that could speak the clinical language. So it would be, hey, I think this is the way we need to go. And then it was, hey, can you explain that, or what does that look like, or what have you? And there was always this kind of back and forth. And the back and forth is okay as long as we're learning together, but it takes time. And time is of the essence when we're talking about delivering these. I mean, everybody's hair is on fire right now trying to get things done by the end of the year. Everything getting pushed out by December 20th, so we can try to get the money in by the end of the year. And that's a real live problem thing. And then that also happens on a monthly basis. And so that, if you're a contract manufacturer and watching this today too, is time is of the essence. When we're doing these fracture braces, or even say a temporary prosthesis or what have you, 2 weeks is not okay. It's going to have to be better than that. And that's why working with contract manufacturers that also send people in on the weekends and print on the weekends, so you can get stuff out either Saturday or a Monday or what have you, is so important. And 3D printing is getting to the point where you literally can start getting your stuff, and it may be at a premium, but next day, sometimes, especially with the new HP printers, with the 5210s, 5200s, you can get out stuff potentially the same day if you did a shorty build. Same with the color printers. If you had just a short build, you might be able to get something out the same day. So just thinking through some of that. And the other thing is, on the back side of these are real, live, living, breathing patients. This is not something that's going on a car or a new car or an airplane. And if you wait another 2-3 weeks, it's okay, because you've got a whole list of other things that you're waiting on. These are things that you've got to get on patients, and it's just that important. So if there was 2 things to take away, is how do you get me surface meshes with all my modifications all the way complete, and how do you get my product to me quick? So again, hopefully that's helpful. Thank you, guys. Check us out if you're interested in Freeform or NTOP or any of the things. Always, you can drop me a DM. And if not, we will probably catch you on maybe 1 or 2 LinkedIn Lives by the end of the year. And then we'll go from there. Take care, guys. Have a good evening.